Kirby and the Forgotten Land was announced during this past week's Nintendo Direct, and let's just say it is a milestone game for the franchise. Let's discuss everything we know about this game right now. Hey beautiful human, my name is RidersDX and welcome to my channel where today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics of all time, which is the 3D platformer. So as you all probably know at this point, whenever I see a 3D platformer, I get all like, yes, yeah! But the 3D platformer we're talking about today is a 3D Kirby game. And did you know that Kirby has never actually had a full-on 3D platformer before? So this is just so exciting to watch in person, in real time when a Nintendo Direct was going on. Like, I never really been that interested in Kirby, to be honest, just because, you know, there's so many 2D platformers out there. It's like, I don't really want to get into another one at this time. But when it comes to 3D platformers, you can never give me enough of them. Like, it's just my favorite genre of all time. And just to see Kirby finally get the chance to enter this world of gaming is just so exciting, and it's something that I really want to keep track of. And so I did a lot of research, you know, just making sure I have all my facts straight, especially since I'm not the most proficient Kirby fan at the moment, but I'm definitely planning to dive into the franchise with this game because this looks like it could be really promising and a really nice start to perhaps a great string of games from the Kirby franchise. And so let's get into the 10 facts right now. At number 1, so as I mentioned, this is Kirby's very first fully 3D platforming adventure, but it is also an exclusively single-player adventure according to Nintendo's website. And so obviously it looks like they really want to focus on that platforming campaign that this game is going to offer you. And so yeah, single player adventure, no multiplayer as far as we can tell. At number 2, we've got quite an interesting foundation in terms of a story for this game. And so it's basically where Kirby washes up on a seemingly deserted island with abandoned structures and many remnants of a past civilization. It honestly looks like the Nintendo rendition of The Last of Us, and so it definitely is a very interesting concept to have Kirby take part in, and there's definitely a lot of mystery surrounding what this place is and what happened to it. So it definitely paints an interesting foundation for an effective story. I don't expect it to be a really deep story just based off the typical presentation of Kirby games, but it definitely piques my interest. I'm interested in finding out more about the lore of this island and what exactly happened to its inhabitants. Number 3, despite it being an island, it sports multiple extremely diverse locations from the trailer alone, and so it's definitely going to be a pretty wide area and tons of different things to explore despite it just being an island. We see a bunch of different locations here, like we see an abandoned mall for instance, we see some tunnels here and there, we see an amusement park which looks really fun even if it is abandoned. We see like a desert area also, there's this like factory that's in the sea, and then we got like a winter area as well that's like snowing and everything. And so this is a pretty crazy island from what I can tell. A common thing that I see with most of the environments is that there's a lot of vegetation, and so that kind of feeds into the more apocalyptic like feel of the island and how it's basically been abandoned for years and years. And so I'm definitely interested in seeing what other locations they're going to throw at us in this game. And number 4, this is being developed by HAL Laboratory, which is Kirby's prominent development team. They've been responsible for developing pretty much every single Kirby game for the past few decades or so. And number 5, Kirby's classic copying ability is here as well, and the trailer shows off a bunch of them. I'm assuming these are a bunch of ones that have appeared in previous Kirby games just because I've seen quite a few of them in Smash Bros, but there's also probably some new ones as well, so definitely let me know which ones are old and which ones are new. One of them is the Sword Knight, which I'm definitely sure is old. We also got like a cutter copy ability, which allows him to use like a boomerang like device to collect items and maybe attack enemies as well. I like the spike / needle ability, which allows enemies to stick to Kirby and then eventually get destroyed that way. There's also a fire ability, there's an ice ability, and probably way more to come as the game gets more info reeled out. At number 6, we saw a bunch of different enemies here, and so I just wanted to kind of quickly cut through all of them that I was able to notice anyway. And so the most prominent one by far is this cat, dog, fox like thing. Like, I don't really know what to call it. I think it's brand new for the franchise, but let me know if it is something that's appeared before. It looks adorable, but don't let that fool you. It's definitely an enemy, so you're definitely gonna need to fight it. We also got Kabu, which is an old enemy, I think. And we got this giant bowl enemy. It's like 4 times the size of Kirby, yet Kirby is somehow able to inhale it. You gotta love love Kirby. You also got this giant porcupine over here that gets really scary when it has all of its spikes up. You also got the Blade Knight. I'm pretty sure that's an old one. Got like a giant snake enemy. Got penguin snow enemies over here. And then the last thing I was able to notice is like a giant monkey slash ape, which is the boss that they show off here. So looks like you'll be dealing with a lot of different diverse creatures here of different magnitudes. And so definitely a lot of variety here. At number 7, so at first I thought that there's actually a warp star mechanic here that you can use to travel throughout the island. As you can see from this cutscene, Kirby is traveling on it. But now that I think about it, it might actually just be a cinematic, just use to transition to the next level. So kind of depending on whether this game is more open world like or if it's more linear like, will kind of determine whether this is an actual mechanic or just a cutscene. Let me know what you think it is in the comment section below. I'll be really interested. I really do hope it's a more open world like thing and this is actually something you can do to travel throughout the city, but it does look like it's a cinematic, so it might be that way as well, which is still a good thing, you know. I think like a linear Kirby game is not a bad idea, you know. Just the fact that it's 3D, you can explore these like places like this is pretty awesome on its own. At number 8, I'm not sure if this is like a classic Kirby mechanic or if it's brand new for this game, but you get a lot of coins for sucking up enemies and they're all different colors, and so they may refer to different monetary values. I'm thinking they're also placed throughout the game, and so maybe there's something that can be used to buy certain upgrades or buy certain cosmetics and such. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but I'm sure that's a pretty common feature to be had in many 3D platformers, and so that's probably what they're referring to. At number 9, so something that was really interesting to me is that you saw a cage of Waddle Dees at some point in the trailer and that you freed them, which may signify an end of the level or maybe just a collectible akin to Moons and Odyssey. So again, it kind of depends on whether this game is actually more linear or open in nature, and so it definitely looks like we'll be saving a bunch of these over here. So obviously there's a lot more to the story than meets the eye. One thing that's really interesting is the fact that the boss battle that I talked about earlier actually is wearing a necklace of Waddle Dees in a cage here, and so it definitely looks like something that you can free at the end of levels, at least, or at the end of like big events. And so maybe that's the main collectible, like I said, and it will be the one that helps you progress through the game. And the very last thing that I have at number 10 is that the game is slated to be released on the Nintendo Switch in the spring of 2022, and so this game is coming relatively soon. I mean, we did have Nintendo announce a bunch of games in the past year that came out like 2 months later, and so this is definitely a much more like typical wait time for a Nintendo game in my eyes. But man, I'm just so glad that it is coming that soon. I mean, it is subject to change depending on whether the pandemic has an effect on it or anything like that, but the game does look pretty solid right now, and it does look like it is pretty ready to get to that date at least. And so I'm excited to see what comes up with this game. You know, it definitely piqued my interest, and I've always wanted to get into a Kirby game, but I just never really had the time. But this is definitely something that's really interesting, and it's also a big milestone for the franchise. You know, I'm just kind of surprised that it took Kirby this long to actually have a 3D title. I mean, it just seems like a character that would really aid well in the 3D environment, considering like, you know, how he travels around and such, and how he's able to suck in different enemies and get different abilities. You know, it definitely is just a lot of elements that would translate naturally well to a 3D environment, especially considering that Nintendo has been excelling in Mario games in 3D for the longest time. So it's a big surprise to me, but it's also really welcome that it's finally happening, and with such an interesting concept to back it up, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to. And so yeah, that's basically everything I had over here. So let me know in the comment section below what you think about this game. What feature are you most interested in? What feature are you a little bit more concerned about? Let me know why not in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content on Kirby and the Forgotten Land in the future. And I definitely will make an effort to make sure I talk more about this game as we get more information. And perhaps if this video and Kirby and the Forgotten Land becomes a little bit more popular on this channel, then maybe I'll start diving into older Kirby games as well. And so if you're a big Kirby fan and there's some games I should definitely check out, then definitely let me know in the comment section below, and maybe I'll check them out before this game comes out. But alright y'all, this is Riders, riding out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Special shout out to my patrons, Team Rattle Sign Gamer, Johnny Hinton Ortiz, Trash Q, Claw84. These are my patrons / YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member and get access to a whole bunch of different perks, then please check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.